Right, greetings everyone. Greetings. I'd like to greet you with the reddest, blackest and greenest welcome that I can. You're here at Blackstory Partnership's Marcus Garvey event. Let's talk about Marcus Garvey, his legacy, our future. I'd like to greet the people watching through the YouTube link. Sorry about the delayed start, but we appreciate and love your energy and presence the same way. So this evening, you know, we're here for a panel discussion. Hopefully you'll find that you'll be engaged throughout. The way that the questions are going to be, hopefully it shouldn't be at a level where nobody can understand it. It shouldn't feel like, you know, the questions are for anybody to answer. It's not a quiz. We're not here to interrogate anybody. We are here to interrogate ourselves as a community and to interrogate, you know, how we have embraced or not so embraced the legacy of Marcus Garvey. So what I've found coming to events like this sometimes they can feel so stiff and tense. And that's not what I want the atmosphere to be here tonight. Okay, so we're all family, right? We're all here under Garveyite principles and love and energy. So let's try and emit that, right? And let's not be too stiff-necked, as we like to say. So before, we've got a strong panel here, as you can see. Some people you probably know already from within the community, but for those who have never seen any of these community faces before, let me do some introductions. So we have, to my right, your left, we have broadcaster, content creator, and activist, and the biggest title, my good sister Ancovia. Let's welcome her. Then we have CEO of this very place that we stand, of the Legacy Centre of Excellence, Mr. Cypher Jules. And we all know that he's an entrepreneur and author of Money Matters, and I'm sure many other titles that we ain't got all day to go through your titles, Cypher. Okay, also we have Tonya Daly, actress, creator, and the producer and director of Marcus, which is one of the play that's coming out. That will be shown in September and October at the Hippodrome. We have Brother Charles, cultural advocate and avid Garveyite. When I said to him, would you consider yourself a Garveyite? He said, oh, you mean, yeah, man. So that is Brother Charles. We have a very distinguished guest. Not to say we're all not distinguished in our own way, but we actually have Marcus Garvey's great-grand-nephew, right? That's Brother Marcus Coach to my right. And he's a cultural analyst and, of course, an avid Garveyite. I mean, how can you not be when it's in your blood, like actually in your blood? So let's welcome him. And then we have Brother Charles, devout Garveyite for over... Brother Imani, of course. Brother Imani, sorry about that. Devout Garveyite for over 30 years, and has just spent his whole life talking about Garvey, living like Garvey, and is spreading bare red, black, and green across the world. Is that fair to say? Okay. Okay, so the way that I'm going to do the questions, I'm going to open the questions to the panel members. So we're going to do some questions and answers discussion amongst the panel members first, sorry. And then I'm going to open up to yourselves as the audience. Is that okay? Yes? Yes, this is an engaging session. This is not me talking at you. This is, you know, we're talking with each other. We're here together. Yeah? Let's try to remember that. Okay, so first question, very light. I'm just going to open it up to the panel, no particular person. So Garveyism, is it actually needed in the 21st century, or should we just move on and modernize, or is there a place for Garveyism today? And I'm opening that out to the whole panel. Don't all jump up. Pick up your mic, yeah?
Yeah, from my perspective, I think that that's a no-brainer. Garveyism is definitely needed now more than ever, due to the current situation that we see ourselves and find ourselves in the world, where we do need that sense of organization, that drive, that philosophy, that vision that gives us the power that we need right now to move forward. We don't get that kind of inspiration from a lot of figures in history, where we can look back and say that, yes, this person has achieved and has been able to defeat the forces that was up against him at the time, which obviously had less access to some of the facilities and some of the technologies that we have today, but he was able to do it. So it's a good sense of for us to know that if you could do it then with Garveyism, it's Garveyism that did it then obviously in the 21st century, I would believe that it's a no-brainer. Garveyism can definitely do it in this time.
Yeah, I think if you look at the world today, COVID has opened our eyes to show us as a people globally, we are in trouble. And that's the reality of it. And all the different groups are coming together and they are organizing under the banner of race and culture. The only leader that we've produced who can show us how to organize, how to come together, and how to utilize the best of us has been Marcus Messiah Garvey. We need Garvey like we need water. Without water, we don't survive. Without Garvey, we're not even getting to the 22nd century, much less making it through the 21st. So Garvey is vital. You just have to study the politics of the world today. Everybody's joining and locking in together. China, America with the rest of Europe. You got the Arab world, and then where are we as Africans scattered all across the planet? What are we going to do on this planet to survive and to go forward? I think only Garveyism has the answers to take us forward, Kush.
That's a very powerful response, that was.
Yes, Garveyism definitely important, essential, as one of the original founding father of pan-Africanism. I would kind of prefer to use the word pan-Africanism rather than Garveyism, because we have such a broad array of knowledge that is ever growing within the struggle for African liberation, that we run a risk of creating division by labeling the whole movement as Garveyism or Nkrumahism or whoeverism. Yeah, so we need to actually embrace a term or a terminology that will actually bring together all of our people under one philosophical umbrella, rather than, labeling, giving a name which is crediting just one of our founding fathers, our founding mothers, right? So we need to actually think about the term. But I, as a descendant of the Garvey blood, I don't have a problem not having Garvey as the main philosophical head of our struggle. And but surely, I think Garvey is a great philosopher that we could actually rest on for ideas for emancipating, especially the word emancipate yourself from mental slavery is very important in the struggle.
Thank you.
Greetings. I think Marcus Garvey is always going to be relevant, because if you look at what he achieved at the age he achieved it, because he was a young man and he was doing great things. 1914, 1916, imagine what the world was like. Africa was under colonial rule, the Caribbean's under colonial rule. you know, Britain is strong, France is strong, and he's talking about Africa unite. He's talking about be independent, be strong, develop businesses of your own. You know, we've got, you know, he's got the Ku Klux Klan running around, there's Jim Crow. Just think about what it's like now and think about what it was like in 1914. You know, he's developing an international newspaper. It's, you know, people are in Costa Rica are learning about what's happening in Africa, learning what's happening in America. It's the first time it's really happened. His vision is so big, it's so huge of independence, of black excellence. He's one of the best of us that we've ever had, really, if you look at it. And I think he's always going to be relevant in any time for people of African origin. He's always going to be relevant because he's one of our greatest heroes. I don't think we wouldn't be the same people we are now without him, without his philosophy. He inspired so many people. I can honestly say, personally, inspired me in what he achieved, in what he planned, his vision, and his application, and the age that he did it, and the struggles that he had. And sometimes you learn from the challenges that other people have. It's like a wisdom that you can learn by the struggles that other people have gone through before, and you can apply yourself to say, I'm not going to try and fall in that hole because that's what they did to this one. And I think there's many lessons we can learn from his life and everything that he taught. So I think he'll always be relevant.
100%. Let's get some female. Yeah. Oh man, yeah, go on.
Oh, okay. Well, as you know, that I'm here to represent the production in terms of directing and everything. So even though I'm not like a Garveyite, but I do feel like from researching Marcus Garvey, I personally feel that it's big. It's big because when you start to research and really get into it, you're like, what? Just like what you were saying, did he really achieve that in that time, at that time, with so much difficulties and challenges? And I feel that there is a real clear mirror of that time and now, actually. I do feel that there's some real things that we can take from it. So, for example, economically, right, he was an entrepreneur in the most finest form. And now what I'm starting to see, and you guys can tell me differently because you've got the knowledge, what I'm starting to see is a lot more investment into black-owned businesses. I don't know if you guys have seen on the Facebook, I call it Facebook. If you guys have seen on the Facebook.
You come here and see like the Black Pound Day markets.
I was just about to say, yeah, exactly that. So all through, there's lots of groups on social media. Here, I've been to so many different events here where it's just full up, where you can buy books, food, products. Just today, as I walked in for this event, the shop next door, the sister who's selling, I just went and brought some products for my daughter. She's going to uni. And this is what I'm talking about. Sometimes if we say Garveyism, we might lose a generation because they probably think, what's Garveyism? But actually, it's what they're about now. Do you understand what I mean? It's just that they probably don't understand. Exactly. Yeah. That's it.
Is that on? Question is Garveyism still relevant?
Is it relevant now?
It is more relevant now than ever, to be honest with you, because we're at a moment in time where people are trying to get us off the planet. Whether we like it or not, that is the fact of the matter. We need race-first philosophy, absolutely. Sister Ankobia, you mentioned the planned pandemic or the pandemic and that. In my mind, it's a godsend to African peoples because it has brought us together like nothing else apart from Garvey himself. So yes, Garvey is
back against the wall that Marcus Garvey spoke about.
Absolutely, absolutely. We will never know ourselves until we're back against the wall. And Garveyism is absolutely irrelevant. now more than ever. That's my little take.
Of course. I mean, obviously that question was rhetorical, but you know. So I want to ask a question around, Cypher, you mentioned like application. One of the things that most inspired you was the way Marcus Garvey applied the knowledge. So my question is like, who are like are there beholders or gatekeepers of Garveyism? Like, and what I mean when I say that is there a level of elitism within the movement? So I've been to events before, for example, and it's only the well-learned, the well-spoken, those that pronounce their T's that are even given validation to speak on it. So my question is, what happened to the people outside the bookie and the baby mothers and the ones don't present as well? Is Garveyism for them, and how are we making it accessible to them? Open question.
Well, I think knowledge itself is most valuable to people who are going through the struggle.
Right.
So I think Marcus Garvey, I'd advise anybody to go and read his book, Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. You can go and read the other book, Race First, by Tony Martin, which talks about how he actually formed the UNIA, how he formed the newspaper, how he distributed it and things like that, and learn for yourself. And you'll see that in an era when there was no Google, it's not like he could use the internet and find a distributor somewhere. Some of the things that he was doing was astounding. And his vision, like I say, his vision was big, and there was more that he was trying to do as well. So I think knowledge is something that you should always seek for yourself. You know, go and hit the books, go and actually study, do the research, and don't just take the knowledge and sit on it. Take the knowledge and apply it, because there's a lot to apply.
Okay, but we're gonna come back. But my question still is like, okay, this application of knowledge then, like, so who is the knowledge for? So an event like this, for example, okay, I kind of knew who to expect here tonight. I kind of know who's watching from the YouTube link right now. But I'm saying is, how do we make events like this? How do we make Garveyism? How do we embrace everybody in this? Or, like I said, is it only for those that have read all the Tony Martin books and, you know what I mean, can make those quotes? So yeah.
Yeah, well, from my point of view, I appreciate exactly what you're saying, because I haven't come the normal route possibly that most people have to Marcus Garvey. I mean, I had a kind of, what you call, exciting young life, so I didn't come a certain way. But for me, why Garvey is so important for me, and why I think the life and legacy of Marcus Garvey can be of benefit to all different people, because I actually use Marcus Garvey as a vehicle to change my life, in the sense that I wasn't from no Christian background, so I never had none of that. I come from a background where that was not an option for me to where I was living. So I saw Marcus Garvey as something different from that type of living, from street life. At one time, it's just street life, Christianity, street life, Christianity. So I didn't want any one of them, you know what I mean? I wanted something different, and that's what Marcus Garvey did for me. In regards to its relevance today, and what really astounded me was what he achieved economically. When I first learned about his businesses, the Black Star Line, and things like that, the Negroes Factory Corps, and many different, some people only remember the ships, but Garvey had loads of different enterprises, hundreds of thousands of enterprises all over the world. The Negro world was just one of them. So as a young person, and at that time, money was very, very important for me. I even see Garvey as an avenue through which I could, aspire to that type of wealth, which I never had before. So I use Marcus Garvey all the time. I go amongst young people all the time. I'm in the community, and I push that aspect of Marcus Garvey, how he was able to use his understanding of the black community, use his understanding of economics, of business, and create enterprises that generated humongous amount of money. And young people are interested in that. Well, how many young, they wear name brand things all the time. They know the value of name brand. So when you show them pictures of Marcus Garvey's, like African Legion, for instance, you say, well, they themselves designed all those uniforms, tailored all those uniforms throughout their own shops. We haven't got nothing like that today. You can say, well, we haven't got nothing like that. So I use Marcus Garvey specifically to inspire young people and people who are down and out. So, well, we can have these things. It's been done before. He's done it before. He's used us. He's not used anybody else. He's not brought in a different set of people. He's used us in the situation that we was in at that time. And he made us prosperous. You know, we had ships. We had things like, you know, we had many things. So I do use that, and I do target that particular aspect of Marcus Garvey to the community and to people who are doing crime and things like that and looking other ways to make money, or even businesses, people who are looking to do businesses. Garvey's shown that working together with a structure, an organization, we can be prosperous. So that's what I think is important about his legacy for our people today.
Thank you. Go on, Sister Ancovia. I was going to butt in, but your hand was stuck in this position for so long. Go on.
I think the vanguards, those who say they're the vanguards of Garveyism, have done Garvey a disservice.
Okay.
Number one, I know Brother Culture mentioned about pan-Africanism being applied to Garvey. Garvey was not a pan-Africanist, and I would dare anybody in here to challenge me on that. He was not a Garveyist. And so there's nothing wrong in us using the word Garveyism. We haven't got to run away from it or shy away from it. Henry Sylvester was the Pan-Africanist Trinidadian lawyer who created Pan-Africanism, but it was hijacked by W.E. Du Bois. W.E. Du Bois was an FBI agent who got Garvey thrown out of America and helped destroy the Garvey movement. So how then did he become the godfather of Pan-Africanism? And how do Pan-Africanists who say they love Garvey accept that? This is things we have to ask. Who put him in that place? He was an FBI informant. Who put him at the head of the movement? Garvey was alive when at least several of the Pan-African movements, or the meetings took place. He never went to one of them. And he wouldn't have gone to them because Du Bois was there and others like him who helped to destroy his movement. So maybe there's another term we need, but we have to look at Pan-Africanism. And maybe that explains why Pan-Africanism is quite ineffective. If Garvey did what he did, then why is it that if all that we have today, Pan-Africanists cannot, I mean, name me one Pan-African school in the world that's really effective, or a university, or a Pan-African bank. Garvey is being failed. And that is a criticism, an out and right criticism of the movement, and of all of us who say we're Garveyites, who say we're Pan-Africanists. Something's gone wrong. Why is there in this elitist attitude? Well, people think it's okay to have meetings and sit down and have this, you know, this event one year and then go back to the plantation. Well, when you study Garvey and what Garvey was doing, they were out on the streets 24/7. Garvey, after he finished his meetings, would go and get ladders, climb up on the ladders, lean them up against buildings, and get a speaker, and be out all night on the street talking to roadman and roadwoman. He talked to everybody. The other part as to why is it that the baby mother, you're saying, Kush, doesn't know
And the people outside
Garvey?
the bookie.
Why is it that the bookie in these people? Well, most people aren't interested in politics, per se. And so there's, as well as Pan-Africanists sometimes taking the wrong approach to the majority of our people in presenting Garvey to them, there's also the flip side of that, the propaganda that's been done that if you associate with Garvey, you're a black militant, you've got issues. You can't get on with anybody who's not black, and everything you do is just black, 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 black. And so people have an issue with that, and that's part of the propaganda that was done against Marcus Garvey and to tarnish his image. The third and final part I wanted to say is, why are the people out there not getting Garvey? It's quite simple. The philosophy of Garvey has been bastardized and has been misrepresented to the people. Garvey's philosophy is very simple. It's not complex. Garvey said, if you could summarize my life's work in 3 words, it's simple. Garvey said, I came to teach self-love. Teach self-love. Why is it that when we come across Pan-Africanists, we never get that vibration and energy of self-love? Why is it? Because if our people aren't into politics, then what are they into? They're into religion and spirituality. Then surely you could turn that philosophy of self-love into a religion of some sort to galvanize the people. To say that what Garvey was teaching us to do was to love ourselves. Garvey says, you're a sovereign man, you're a sovereign woman, you are made in the image of God. Therefore, you have a duty to your creator to be excellent, just like Legacy says there, pioneering excellence. That's an African trait. That's part of our culture and our heritage. And that's what Garvey was about. So it's very clear he came to teach self-love, but we don't get him from the sense of self-love. We never hear Garvey from that perspective in those very sort of loving terms. And I think we also need a new metaphysics of Garvey. And maybe that's the work out there for someone to do, to say, right, how are we now going to represent Garvey to the people with this message of self-love at the core and take it from there? And that's what I think, you know. And it's not to knock heavy on the Garveyites and the Pan-Africanists, because there are people out there who are doing some good works. You understand? But there's also some John Crows out there that need to be called out for what they are, and they're mashing up the legacy.
John Crows everywhere.
Yes, respect, Sister Nkobia. I kind of sympathize with your analysis relating to Pan-Africanism. Not that I agree with it, but I think we're all learning and developing. And, you know, what I used to believe yesterday, hopefully I will know tomorrow. And a lot of people are actually just expressing what they know. And so we can't really take, you know, someone's view of Pan-Africanism as being complete and total, because we are all in a stage of development. I see Marcus Garvey's organization, the UNIA, as a Pan-Africanist organization, whether people call it that or not, because it embraces all African people wherever they are on this planet. And if they're out of space, they're included as well. Right, so that's how I see Pan-Africanism. But, of course, there are socialist Pan-Africanists and there are capitalist Pan-Africanists. And that's a confusion that people are looking at socialism separate from Pan-Africanism. And perhaps the world that has been oppressing us and dividing us, right, politically, will divide us between socialism and Pan-African capitalism.
Isn't all the isms, isn't that
Ism,
the
ism
issue?
and schism,
Because when I
really.
hear isms,
Yes.
I'm telling you personally, I
Right.
switch off.
So
when I
you
hear the isms and the schisms and all that,
Right. So you
I
can be
switch off.
divided politically, you can divide it religiously, right? But if we are clear-minded as African people, we will not follow the labels. What's important is that we build institution which is based on knowledge, not on what we believe, but on knowledge, proven facts, yeah, processes, things that works, things that solves problem, and develop a culture of problem solving amongst us, rather than belief system that divides us.
give thanks, Brother Marcus. Brother Charles, how do we bring Garveyism to the man outside the bookie? I said, how do we bring Garveyism to the man outside the bookie? Is Garveyism for?
I think we need to embed Garveyism into every facet of our culture. Yes. And I also feel that, our biggest fight and struggle, in my view, is to wrestle the education of our children, because they are the future and stuff. And we have to create curriculums where we embed these things cleverly into it. Currently, there's talk about a black curriculum. We've all heard that. But I say, to what end? Because if the curriculum is going to be taught in the general schools, it's going to be watered down. 50 years from now, we're still going to be having the same conversation. Our story, Garveyism, we have to take control of the narrative. We've seen what they've done with Martin Luther King. They've turned him into a dreamer to suit them. You understand? He wasn't a dreamer. And we can't afford to have, as to whether there's a hierarchy in the Garvey movement. I think that people tend to feel that they own information. Okay. But information belongs to everybody, you know, and stuff. Nonetheless, we can't allow that to stop us. We have to forge ahead and make sure that Garvey's philosophies is actually embedded in all areas of people activity. As to whether or not, I believe that the UNIA was a pan-Africanist organization. Yeah, as Garvey said, Africa for Africans, those at home and abroad. Somebody else said, you're not an African because you are born in Africa. You're an African because Africa's born in you. So, yeah, that's my little...
Okay, thank you very much. So, Tonya, directing the Marcus play, how are you going to make sure that the message of Marcus Garvey is applicable to your youngest person in the audience and the oldest person in the audience then?
Good question. So, first of all, the writer, she couldn't be here today, Sarah. Sarah's written a wonderful, wonderful play. And the way that we are, the audience for this play is family. So that's young and old. And the way that that message is portrayed is actually through the main character, which actually, you'll be surprised to know, isn't Marcus Garvey. It's actually a young black man called Jermaine. So yes, Marcus Garvey is main, obviously, but Jermaine, the young man Jermaine, he is the main character. And there was a reason why we did this, is pretty much talking to everything you've just been speaking about. Because when I speak to my children about Marcus Garvey, they know about him because I have delivered Black History drama workshops over 21 years, even though I look 21, say it. Over 20, thank you for the laughter. I love a bit of love. So
active listening, that's called. Thank you, my sister.
So, yeah, for over 20 odd years now that I've been delivering. So what I do is I've got all these great Black historical characters who I get every young person that I've taught in the schools, everybody involved. So it doesn't matter what color they are, I get them all involved because I need them all to know who these great inventors, these great innovators, these great entrepreneurs are. So in this play, what's amazing is that the young character, he is given a book from his late his grandfather. They call him Papa. So he's been given the book, and this book changes his life, a bit like Imani, a bit like you. So you finding out about Garvey in your kind of way you're on road or whatever, not on road, but not putting words, but you get what I mean. Yeah, but however it went down. But this young gentleman in the play is called Marcus, by the way. He is in a family which is a little bit, it's not dysfunctional, but there's difficulties because there was a death in the family and there's difficulties. And
we know how that goes.
Exactly.
We know how that goes.
So it just creates that tension. It creates those fractions. And there's no unity there. And so this young person, by reading and really digging deep into Marx's world and his life, he starts to kind of bring forth those kind of teachings into his life. Yeah? And that's how we flip the script on the situation. You get me? That's how we flip the script, because it's about, so I personally feel, to answer a little bit of the question before, how do we engage those other people, the young people, the people out on road, the people out on street, whichever. It's not, the solution isn't just like that, fair enough. But personally, the only thing I can speak to is, for me as a creative, I always use the creative arts as a tool, as a springboard, as a way, as a way to kind of engage and to educate and to bring people in on the story, yeah? And that's what we are doing. That's our stance on it. I can't change the world in that way, but just one little bit of my little input as a creative with other creatives, all together now, we can engage a new audience. That's what I'm hoping and praying for. And just stepping into what you were saying, in the play, we look at the whole thing of self-love. We do look at that, which is it's a strong ingredient. So I'm not going to say any more about that.
Yeah, because they're going to want to come and watch it. Quick interjection
so come and
here.
watch it. That's a plug. That's a plug. Come and watch it.
Just quickly, just carrying on from what you said in the play. That is precisely what I'm talking about, embedding this knowledge into all areas of our people's activity. So they don't have to learn, it's already subliminally there. So we need, in fact, as I said, that's our biggest fight. We need to fight to separate our education, because that's the only way we are ever gonna.
Well, it's like I said earlier, if you say to a young person, oh, I'm going to an event, it's about Marcus Garvey, or I'm going to an event, yeah, it's been run by Garveyism, or you know, oh yeah, the Garveyites, they might be looking at me going, I don't understand. So I'm not saying we change that, but I'm saying that we're able to get that message out through the creative mediums, through film, TV, and theatre. That's my stance, only because that's what I do. I do TV, film, and theatre, so that's why I'm doing that.
And even though we're here talking about Marcus Garvey, that question, when I created that question, I thought about Malcolm X. If anybody knows Malcolm X, you know that Malcolm X never started off as Malcolm X. Detroit Red, the devil, tech drugs, sleep with a white woman, all kind of thing, and look who he ended up being. So the reason why I posed that question is because I think that there's a lot of people out there, yeah, as young people, who I was 20 years ago was very different from who I am here, who I am today. Same with many of you in the audience, same as, you know what I mean? So my thing is, are we shunning people away from the movement? Yeah, are we shunning people away from embracing, not just even Garveyism, but anything that's cultural and beneficial because of our application and because of our approach and because of, you know, the language that we use and how we make our flyers? All of those things have an effect. Who are we talking to when we create events like this? You know what I mean? Who is the target audience? So it's just something I want us to even think about in our own personal lives when we're disseminating information, because people like to learn, but not everybody likes to be taught. That's one thing I've learned as an educator myself. You know what I mean? If many of us, if I was to go on Instagram, for example, and say, right, at 3 o'clock, I'm going to be teaching you how to, I don't know, make fried dumpling, yeah? I'll probably have 2 people on my live, right? If I left a video on how to make fried dumpling, I'll probably get 500 views. So my point is that a lot of people don't want to be seen to be sitting down at the foot of somebody and learning, because that's ego and all of those kind of things. So as an educator, if your intention is to genuinely educate, you will be like very aware about your approach, obviously for different audiences as well. You will know who you're talking to and who you want to engage, and that's with all of us. So that's just okay, Sister Garvey.
Just to come in.
Push a round of applause.
Oh, clap me now. Thank you.
Just going back to your question of how do we get the message across. I think it was 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? I think it was on radio. I decided I wanted to bring Marcus Garvey to the people, but I wanted the men to do it. And I didn't want to be the person to host the radio show. I wanted a young man to do it, to show that black men could work together. So I put a message out, about 52 brothers came forward, which end up choosing 31. These Brother Manny, no, you came to the last show, didn't you? Yeah. Brother Simon, I see there, and maybe there's some others in the audience as well. Desmond, yes, there you go, from Ooh Skincare. So the brothers came forward, and we rehearsed. I gave them the speeches, we rehearsed, we practiced, we went to the studio. Brother Faisha, I can see you there. They really came forward, and I'm sure they could talk about how they learned. The beauty of it, though, and the reason why we did it, wasn't just for their own benefit to have an exercise in reading the Garvey message. It was so that it would then impact. You have that multiplying effect. Like you say, if you make the video for the dumpling and it's just 2 people, 500 people, next minute 1,000, you wake up next week, 100,000 people learn how to make dumpling, you know? And that was the purpose of doing those shows. Black History Month, from October the 1st to the 31st, make sure the community every single day got a speech from Garvey. By the men doing that, they then wanted to get some of them had the books naturally because they're Garveyites. Some of them didn't though. Never knew about Garvey. The young brother who came forward as the host was fantastic. He was brilliant. So some of them wanted to then go and do the research for themselves because they'd never heard these messages from Garvey. That's why you always have to go to the horse. Brother Cypher said it. Get the books yourself and read for yourself. Don't let nobody tell you who somebody was. Read the person's works for yourself. The beauty that's now come from that, we've made some contact with a book publisher in America who's been in this business for over 40 years. Some of you know I love audiobooks. We've got 3 top reggae artists, I'm not going to call their names because it's going on YouTube, who've now come forward to say they want to read Marcus Garvey Philosophy Opinions 1, 2, 3, and Message to the People. And that's how you get the message out there.
That's a definite way of thinking, exactly. I was going to say, I hope you mentioned your audio books, because I know when you was initially coming up with the idea, I know we spoke about that, and that was one of the ways as well, because we know that people either haven't got time or haven't got the desire to really sit down and read, but somebody will put their headphones on and listen to an audio book while you're cooking, at the gym, doing whatever you're doing, you know what I mean?
They're young artists who are at the top of their game right now, and they're like, yo, put us on it, we're going to do it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, 100%. Right, moving on. This question's a bit hot, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to let you know now. So, 3 tenets of Garveyism. Race first, yeah? Nationhood and self-reliance. Can race first be misinterpreted as racist? Should we or do we care? Why or why not? Open to the panel. Race first, racist. Should we care that it could be deemed as racist, or?
It can be deemed as racist, but I don't think we should care, personally, myself. Because everybody else in the world does it. That's one of Garvey's central messages. Everybody else in the world, every other people, it's just natural to look about protecting, securing the future for your own people, particularly the first people in your house, but then your wider community. That's just a natural thing. I think one philosophy or one principle of Marcus Garvey, and Sister Ann Colby has already mentioned it, that I think is central to all that, is sovereignty. And more than anything else, for me, what I get from Marcus Garvey's teachings is that he's teaching us to become sovereign lords, whether you're female or you're male. And it's our duty, our divine duty as sovereign lords to seek to have excellence and to look after ourselves. For Garvey, when I hear Garvey speak, if we fail to look after ourselves, we fail to look after our own community, then we are actually, as he says, creating an improper motive for God creating us or for a creator to create us. So that's what he's saying. Fundamentally, for us, we have to look within ourselves first. We have to look at what we are, who we are, and what our aspirations are before we can obviously start to think about what other people think or what they don't think. I think that's central with Marcus Garvey, that It's not racism. I do get a lot of problems, as Ann-Colby has said, with how Marcus Garvey is portrayed in most of the rhetoric that people have in regards to Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey is far from racist. He made a statement, he loves his people. Does that make you racist? Because you love your people. Loving your people's first, that's his principal motive, as Sister Ann-Colby has said as well. This is what he taught us to do, to love ourselves. So does that make us racist? That cannot be racist. And I think if other people from other, say, ethnic backgrounds won't even have that debate, they won't even be saying things like that. This question won't even be asked. That's just natural. It's because of our condition and why we're even thinking that. So, I mean, I'm not racist. I'm far from racist. I'm far from racist. But I am race first. I get on with everybody. But anybody who, I don't care, I mean, if you're gonna challenge or affect my family, my people, then I'm going to resent that. I'm going to stand up for them. Does that make me racist? No. I'm a defender of my people. That's what we're trying to do. We're men, we're women, we're trying to defend our race. Does that make us aggressive? No. And people may say we are aggressive, but once we start to buy into that same narrative, that to say that we're black and we're proud to be black, or to say that we're Garveyite and we want Africa first and we want a United States of Africa is somehow racist, we're at fault even thinking that. It's a natural thing to us to want to be independent and self-reliant. That's just natural. So for me, I don't see it as a problem. And if a person does have a problem with that, it's because they have a problem with humanity. They have a problem with people being people. Anybody who doesn't want us to be and lead our own destiny, anybody, black, white, or Indian, or whatever they are, then they are not for humanity. We are not saying that, we want to be free and everybody else get enslaved. Garvey's not saying that. Garvey's saying, which is fundamental, that the world cannot be free. It's impossible unless we are free. So if we are not free, the world can't be free. So we can see that the world's not trying to free us, so we have to free ourselves. That's the standard.
Straight.
Can I just say one little thing?
Of course.
One tiny little thing. For me, it's all about perception and interpretation as well, because obviously for some people, they might have seen that, and they might have hear that race first and like, oh my goodness, what do you mean? But for me, the way I see it is when my children laugh at me, because from years ago as an actor, whenever I saw when I saw a black actor on the TV, I would be like, sitting up, I'd be like, oh, yes, a black actor. I'm so excited. So my kids to this day will laugh at me. They say, Mom, you only just love it when the black people come on. It's not just about that, But, pardon? Yes, exactly, sister. So it makes me feel like bold and big, and then I put on my wrap, and then it makes me feel better. You get me? And there's a reason for that, and it speaks to what the brother was talking about. It is about self-love. So I don't, I'm not saying we change that saying at all, actually, because you've just kind of schooled me a little bit there. So you're kind of making me think differently.
Each one, teach one.
But for me personally, being in my job, it's very multicultural, and even my family now, it's very, very mixed. There's so many mixtures. And so sometimes you could say something and it could seem divisive. It could seem hardcore. So we do shy away from things. But today, I'm going to be bold. Because I'm bold today, because I feel like it is about that feeling of when you see somebody on the TV and you go, wow, look, they look like me. And that was, for me, being able to be in my industry, it was about that. It was, I want to be able to see other people that look like me, sound like me, walk like me, dance like me. Do you get what I'm saying? And it was so important. It was so enriching and so fulfilling to see that. So I want to say thank you for what you just said, but also saying it in a way that is unapologetic. I know that word's bandied about, but I'm not worried about whether it's bandied about. I'm just saying you were clear, and you weren't apologizing for it, but you were making it you were making us understand it. So I hope the young people that are listening today are getting that vibe, because I feel blessed, man. When I come out of here today, I'm going to walk taller. I'm only 5'2", but I'm going to be 5'3".
Whoa.
After this. Big up on them.
Yeah.
Marcus culture.
Yes, race first, definitely yes. But race first in the context of self-reliance, self-determination, and all of that, right? Because we were enslaved only because we allow other people to lead us. And the leadership came via religious organizations. Like, you know, a lot of us are Christians, right? And a lot of us, you know, is looking for our Savior to come back, right? And that Savior used to be, for most of us, yeah, our grandparents even, and even during slavery, our people have been looking at a blue-eyed, white-skinned Savior, right? So that is in that context that Marcus Garvey actually had to stipulate race first, because most of us, even today, are not putting race first. And even people who say race first is still not using the right strategy to show that we are putting race first. And when we put race first, we also need to start using the logics and the science and the tactics properly to get us there. Because, you know, sometimes we can want to go to the moon, right? And sometimes we'll ride a donkey and it won't get us there, right? So we need to actually apply the technology, the science and the technology on all that kind of thing to make sure that, you know, our liberation comes now and not after we die. Right.
What examples of strategies can you?
Strategies, right? We talk about education, right? Education is very vital. And when we're saying education, we are going to have to teach our people to stop believing what I'm telling you and start critiquing and studying, yeah? And break it apart. Don't accept what I say. Don't accept what Marcus Garvey said. Critique all of those things and come to your own conclusion if you prove it right or wrong. And then test it in practice. And if it works, keep replicating and keep training and developing others in those areas. We got many skills. You know, you can talk about electronics, you can talk about telecommunication, you name it, right? All kind of knowledge is required. And when we become proficient at developing knowledge, teaching others, and putting it into practice, like how other nations are doing it, right? This is what we need to do for our race first, right? Most people go and study and become an expert in something, and then they go on to Japan, they go on to China, they go on to America to work, and they don't want to work in their country. So all of those kind of strategies is race first strategy, and it's not just a talk.
I'm just gonna
So race first, can it be deemed as racist? Do we care? Should we care? Why or why not?
First of all, the suffix "ist" does not indicate something negative. We have scientists, we have dentists. It indicates proficiency.
Okay.
Right. In my view, of course, hell yes, race first. Everybody else practices race first. There's only a problem when we decide to say race first. You know, the Chinese, the Indians, the whites, they practice race first. That's why we're in this condition we're in. And we should not apologize. Why the hell are we apologizing? For what? We are the ones that's been wronged. We haven't wronged anybody. So yes, race first. But I will emphasize, our biggest fight is education. If we don't wrestle education from our children, how many years has it been since Garvey? What has changed? Nothing. Nothing will change unless we educate our children, take them out of these schools if we have to, but if we talk about reparations, that is what I want to see our efforts go into, because education for me, true education, is the absolute key. Within 20 years, we can turn this round if we educate our babies and stop giving them over to other people to miseducate them. That's my view.
Cypher, race first. Can it be misinterpreted as racist? And do you care?
I'll be honest with you, my whole thing is, I look at my community and I see we've got issues that are specific to us, and we've got challenges that we need to solve which are specific to us. And it's only intelligent if we collectively work to solving these issues and solving these challenges. All the terminologies and all that, I'm very practical. Do you get what I mean? So I see problems and I'm like, okay, what's the solution? Okay, what's the plan to actually implement this solution? What's the project plan? Do we start? I don't really get into the ifs and the buts and the this and the that. What I see is challenges. Like, for example, we've been doing a youth program. I was speaking with some young people today about Marcus Garvey. And they're like 13 years old. And I'm saying, you know how important it is for us to actually develop businesses in our community, for us to actually be able to solve the problems in our community. I'm telling you, when you amongst the youth, you see a lot of challenges. There's challenges amongst our youth now that many of us probably don't even realize that our young people are going through. There's a whole new generation where even in my era, I thought there were challenges, but I think this is more in a different way. I'm fixated upon how can we collectively fix these solutions, find solutions to fix these problems. Not tomorrow, not now, not intellectualize it, not even debate it, but what are we actually going to do right now, within the next 5 years, to solve the issues that our young people are going through? Last 4 weeks, I've had young people say some things to me that I literally have to go away and sit down for 2 minutes. And
all the meds.
I'm telling you, it's very, very real. Things that they should not be going through. Where's our schools? Where's the another 10 legacies up and down the country? Where's our hotels? Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Marcus Garvey said, where's our great nations and our armies, our people of high affairs? Where's all of this? So for me, I would say collectively, we've got issues, we've got challenges, locally, nationally, and internationally. What are we going to do to actually deal with these things? And how do we actually make it applicable to people your age, this young person's age, and say to them, all right, okay, so what do you want to be? Well, I'm not too sure. Why? Well, you need to I'm encouraging young people all the time, be confident, believe in yourself, think about how great you can be. I don't necessarily say to them, this philosophy or that philosophy. I kind of strip it down to the basics and say, this is what we need. This is how we need to actually create a plan to get what we need and implement that plan to what we need. And sometimes I find that when we get into the terminologies of things, we get lost in the terminology. We get lost in the discussion around terminologies. And we forget that we've actually got to go out there and do this work. Do you know what I mean? So as much as I love the debate around that thing and around race, and right now I'm actually trying to save our community and save our youth. And I'm trying to encourage other young people to say, I wrote a book, Secret Money Manual, that's totally inspired by Garvey's principles around self-reliance, do for self, and making business sound simple and attractive to young people. And when our people do well, we're supposed to celebrate them, and we're supposed to encourage them. And I suppose if you want to call that, you could even say that's 21st century Garveyism. I saw a young person the other day, and he got 8 A's, right? 8 A stars. And I grabbed him up and I lifted him up, and I said, look, yo, it was to me, because if he went out there and he did badness, He'll be celebrated. There's a group of people that would celebrate his badness.
True.
But when our young people do good, we don't celebrate them enough. To me, that's new Garveyism. To me, saying to them, right, you want to be a doctor, this is how you do it. You want to actually start your own business, this is how you do it. You want to become a lawyer and own your own lawyer practice, this is how you do it. Go and implement it. Go and practice it. And I think, to me, it's about that. I think sometimes when we get caught up in that thing. When I was a young person growing up, I used to go to see people intellectualize our problems.
Yes.
And then don't apply it, don't go and deal with the solution. And I used to be like, I don't even understand what this discussion was about. So, not to say that I don't want to answer the question. I'm just saying, I'm about the work, and I'm about encouraging other people to do the work and actually make it happen. You know, how are we going to provide a future for these young ones? Because I'm telling you, this is a hard world out here for us and our people. And our young people are coming to me, like I said, young people come to me in tears telling me certain issues. And I'm like, well, we can't solve this with the debate. But what we can do is we can debate our issues, we can discuss our issues, we can discuss our problems, and we can create a project plan and say collectively, let's go and implement that to solve our problems. And I think that's where that's where I am right now with everything. Let's do the work. And let's make it happen. And let's implement those changes. And let's do it now. We should have started 50 years ago. I think we're running so late behind time. It's embarrassing. Like I said, Marcus Garvey did a lot more with less. What are we doing? Are we playing? Are we taking this thing serious? Are we realizing the times that we're in and the challenges that our people are facing? Let's go and do the work. Not tomorrow, today. That's where I'm at with that. And I'm sorry, Sister Maddis.
Nah, that was a...
Push. No, because I haven't said anything. No. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Brother Cypher, for that. That was beautiful. Definitely race first from the bedroom to the boardroom. All the way. It's as simple as that. I think, you see, sometimes if we can just flip it, race first, self-love first, and we can just flip it and turn it to what it is, because other people have used it against us, and it sometimes catches us off guard because we think, oh, I don't want to be racist, and I don't want people to think I hate other people, I'm all about this one love stuff and all that nonsense. And so we have to flip it and say, what does it mean to us? And I think Brother Amani did that beautifully, to break it down. What does it mean when you talk about race first? I think also, I hear what Brother Cypher's saying about doing the work. You need the philosophy, you need to understand, because you need a framework, you need a model, and you have to do the work. But in between those two, there's the how. And that's sometimes where we get stuck and we beat upon ourselves very, very hard. We're a people who don't know what love is, for the most part. We've been steered in nothing but self-hatred. And it's very hard. We've just had the Olympics. You can imagine all of these people standing up on the line, waiting for the gun. They all represent races. Here comes the African race in the wheelchair at the 100-meter race. And you want them to go for it, and everybody else is on 2 feet. It's not going to happen. And so we need the how. How do we build ourselves back up? How do we build back racial esteem, self-esteem? Do we need self-love boot camps? Do we need history boot camps where you go for 6 weeks? You say you want to be a leader, if you've got to go to a certain place and go to a boot camp, and if you don't pass, you can't come out and represent us. What is it? It's the how do we build ourselves up. So we're very good at what we know needs to be done. This got to be done. We've got to build this. We've got to build that. But if we don't have the confidence, then how do people get confidence? How do you give them confidence? How? I was a Garvey for years, and I didn't know about self-love or nothing. Do you get me? So how? What is the how? And I think that's where we're stuck at, is the how. And part of that comes down to each of us has to look in the mirror and say, what is my contribution to this puzzle right here, this problem? Because sometimes you want the mass we all got to come together and unite. But I don't want to unite with all black people, to be quite frank. Yeah, because when
even Garvey say he has no desire to take all Africans back to Africa.
Yeah, because when we get together, we can be quite destructive because of those hurdles that have been placed in us and conditioned in us to make us fail at every turn. So how? How do we take 400 years of conditioning, turning us inside out? How do we reverse that? Because that's what the youth are saying. Why haven't you built the schools? Why haven't we got 10 legacies? Well, mommy and daddy hated themselves when they had you, and so did your grandparents. Your grandparents were in love with a white God, and they never thought it necessary that you should have a school for yourself. They sent you to the masters or the slave makers' school. That's what they did. That's why you don't have it. And I just think if they get to understand our struggles as adults, how we really struggle, even if we have some of these philosophies, we struggle to implement certain things. We struggle to implement the ideals. We struggle to love ourselves, to appreciate ourselves. We struggle to form solid relationships, solid family relationships. Let's get real with the youths and talk in real how we struggle, you know what I mean? And the reality of what that personal struggle is for us. And then they can appreciate more why we are at where we're at. Which is not making an excuse for where we're at. It's just trying to bring some understanding to the reasoning.
I think Brother Charles wanted to make a quick point, and then we'll come to you, and then change the dynamics a little bit.
I'm going to embarrass somebody. Simon Solomon, you still there? Yeah? Right. When we done the Robin Walker's Black History course, I recall being given 3 sheets, and these were actual facts. They were from Birmingham, West Midlands Education Authority, I think it was at the time, and it showed the levels of each ethnic group going into the school system. And if you guys remember, the black child was on top, even in English. We also was given another sheet, and that showed the children coming out of school at 17, 16. It had reversed. We were at the very bottom. So that only tells you one thing. The school system is there. It's not for our children, that's for sure. It's not going to give them no confidence. And this is why I emphasize that we have to fight to educate our children. Because as soon as, I mean, it's a fact that a black baby is supremely advanced, but something goes wrong. And I maintain that once you give your baby over to the very people that has put us in this condition, what the hell do we expect to come back? That is our struggle. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Do you want to check in with you guys? Everybody okay? Everybody all right? Engaged? You happy? Yeah? You feeling like... we'll get into that. We are going to get to that. Yeah? Okay, brother in mine has been waiting to make a point.
Okay, I just want to add something to this debate. We always hear about education, and the importance of education. As I explained earlier on, I haven't come through the traditional route as most people. I was one of those youths who was very, very disruptive at school, so I didn't get an education. My career has been in working with young people. Anybody who knows me, I work with young people all the time. And as I said, I'm a Garveyite. I think when we keep on saying education, without adding the fact that there is a specific, particular type of education that we need to make us do and be the person that we need to be. I was quite fortunate, I think, because very early, and I'm not knocking the education system in no way at all, because I've sent loads of young people to college. I've kept them in college. I'm a mentor, so I keep them in school, make sure they get the education, make sure they go to university and all the rest of it. I've done that all my career. But I took Marcus Garvey's advice personally, in the sense that Marcus Garvey says that you don't have to go to school directly to get the education that we need to get in order to move ourselves forward. Yes, there are certain things technologically that we need to learn in school and so forth, but as you've already noted, a lot of us already have these skills. We already have these technologies. The difference is we haven't got the mindset of how to utilize these things for our own benefit. And that can only be done outside of the education system. There's no way that the education system that has been created to put us in this situation is then going to give us the tools to get out of that situation. So what I say, why I can relate to a lot of young black people in particular is because I can say to them, it's more about applying yourself. Again, it's about the sovereignty. Even today, if you tell me to go to college or to go to school or go to education, to get a job, to become something, my question is going to be, for who? Who am I going to do it for? You're not going to get me to do it now. I'm a big man. You're still not going to get me to do it. You understand? So this is what I'm saying. When you're telling a young person who's already made a decision in his brain, I'm not going to school. I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want to help the man. Then we are going to come and say, you need to go to college, you need to go to school, without telling them why they're going to school. We have an empire to build. We have a kingdom to build. That's how I speak to young people. You understand? You want to do construction. Sometimes they say to me, there's too much competition. Too much competition. We have a whole continent to go and build. That's why you're doing construction. But if he hasn't got that alongside the education, then you're going to get a lot of young people who was like me, and I'm still the same way, who's not going to join in this system to help to sustain what they see today as being something that is not to or for their benefit. So we have to be saying to them, okay, then do this, but do this to do this, and to work for these people. For
a particular purpose.
You understand? If we're not providing the jobs, we're not providing the laboratories for them to become scientists and working, we're not providing the schools for them to become teachers and so forth, and we're telling them to be educated, they're asking the question, for what? To do what? To help build this system. We are not presenting. So my objective, because I've come from that school of Garvey, personally myself, I can say it live, everybody knows this, I want my own things. That's what Garvey teaches you. I will not satisfy for anything else and anything other than what I have created for my own self. And that's what the youth system need to understand. It's not just about having education, because this is why we have a problem. People have education and they go and help themselves. This is a problem. So it's about us, what are we going to do with that education? So we have to have a mindset first, or whilst, or simultaneously whilst we are accumulating that education, of what that education is for and what we're going to do with it to help ourselves.
100%.
That's what I believe.
So I'm going to ask my final question to the panel. Then we're going to open it up to you guys. Be so patient. I know some of you probably got a bag of questions written down. No. I'm sure you're not the only one, though. So my last question for the panel. Okay. We're going to end on a high. Like I said, I want to make sure that, you know what I mean, we don't just make Garveyism seem like it's so hard and difficult and challenging. I want everyone on the panel to tell me some of the joys and some of the perks and the beauty of embracing a Garveyite lifestyle. What's some of the beauty of it? I want you to talk to these young princesses down here as well, because these are the young people that we're trying to embrace. So when you're thinking about your answer, think about your answer in a way that can be understood by these young ladies here. What is so brilliant about being a Garveyite?
I'll tell the truth straight. I'll tell the people straight. I was quite fortunate. I've read Philosophers and Opinions, Black Moses, a lot of books, but the one book that has been instrumental in my life is a book called The Message to the People. The School of African Philosophy. It is a teaching, a course that Garvey taught himself. And he actually deals with all aspects of life. How you should behave, how you should present yourself.
That chapter on diplomacy
everything.
is my favorite chapter.
And what I can say, for me personally, that book has made me who I am in every aspect of my life. Every aspect. I followed that strategy. I followed what Marcus Garvey says, and it changed me. As I said to you earlier on, I didn't have a Christian background or any other background other than the life I was coming up in. I used Marcus Garvey, so I only know Marcus Garvey's philosophy in regards to how to become a man. I've got no other reference point. So by using Marcus Garvey's, we can't even say philosophies, his strategies, I would have to say that it has benefited me in every single aspect of my life. Every aspect.
Lovely. Sister Ancobia, what are some of the joys and the perks and the beauty of being a Garveyite?
Wow. That's like saying to a Christian, you know, well, how are you going to feel when you meet Jesus? we know the answer. We know the answer. It's wonderful. I mean, and it's a lovely question. Thank you for asking that, because sometimes we focus on the other side of it.
Exactly.
And sometimes you feel heavy, like, boy, if only I didn't know this stuff. But no, the other side of it, it's a joy. You know, when you go amongst your people, and you're somewhere and you're reasoning, and people start chatting all kind of rare, and you can school them a little bit and show them another side of how things work. That's a joy, because you're touching someone's soul and their heart. And it's a joy when you're out there in the world and this world is coming at you, but it's like you've got this brick wall that protects you, that nurtures you. That's how I sort of look at Garveyism. And for me, message to the people, definitely. But my favorite Marcus Garvey book, the most not talked about book, is The Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, Volume 3. People don't talk about it. When Volume 1 and 2 was done, his wife did it, and she had to tone down Volume 1 and 2 because at the time he was in prison, and she was trying to appease to a certain extent his critics to make them see his philosophy and to, make them see him in a better light. By the time she got to 1974, it was Garvey unadulterated, and she just put everything in that book, Volume 3. There's also, we haven't talked about her tonight, Mama Amy Jiggs Garvey, and she gives me joy to be a Garveyite. There's a book out about her. Please, if you can, get the book. It's by the University of Tennessee. It's called The Speeches and Teachings of Amy Jiggs Garvey from 1923 to 1928. I can tell you now, brothers, you're going to have a hard time reading that book because she calls you to account. She does not joke as a woman. She calls black manhood to the table to account. And she also does the same with black womanhood as well, But so she gave me a joy from looking at myself as a woman, knowing that there's a way for me in the world to move and navigate. There's a way for me to try and learn how to conduct myself. There's a way for me to think. I haven't got to think in this sort of Roman, Greco kind of mind frame. I can think outside of that. In the workplace, and you hear people talking about certain things, you've got a whole nother frame of reference. And trust me, when you start to reason with some of them, they don't know what's hit them when you come with this whole Garvey way of looking at the world, this self-love way of looking at the world through your own Ethiopian spectacles. It's wonderful and it's joyous. Yes, there are difficulties. It's joyous. It's joyous when we come together like this. You know what I mean? It's joy when I can say, sis, you just come back from Africa. I love your gowns.
Madasi.
And then you can tell me about Mother Africa and what Mother Africa was like, and I can't wait to go there. So joy when you go to the Caribbean and you see our people and you learn about our heritage and our culture. Hey, I'm telling you, man, it's greater than when the Christians are going to meet Jesus. You all guys need to switch. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's food for the soul.
Sister Ancovia. I know. As a newcomer to the Garveyite information and the Garvey movement, Sister Tonia, what some of the joys and perks that you found embracing and reading about Marcus and directing the play and all those kind of things? Like, how is it for you?
Yeah, okay, so, yes. Okay, so for me, just really, really quickly, because I know the time is running, I would say about self-love and just when I step into a room, when I'm stepping into the room to direct the show, and the beautiful words of Marcus Garvey, every single time when I'm directing it, I'm just overwhelmed and with his words, with how he talks, even the way he speaks about women, about his, as us. So it makes me just feel beautiful. That's really simple. I feel beautiful, like a beautiful queen, and I've not felt that kind of feeling in general. Do you know what I mean? I used to look in the mirror and go, oh gosh, why am I so ugly? But these kind of things, I know that's...
Don't you
I don't do
dare.
that now. No.
Oh.
No.
Oh, okay.
Remember,
When I
we
hear
talked
things like
about
that, you
growth.
know, make it, okay,
no,
okay.
we've talked about growth. I'm telling you a story about, that was a past. I'm talking about now, and not just now, but as a progress. What I'm saying is, Garveyism, even though I'm not a Garveyite, sorry, and I'm here to represent the play, but I'm appreciating, and I'm learning, and I'm appreciating a lot. And so that's what I would say.
Cypher.
I'd say the beauty of Marcus Garvey's philosophy is that wherever you go, you see family, for me. So his movement, he had Muslims in his movement, Christians in his movement, Hebrews in his movement. He had Marxists and socialists. He had everybody in his movement. He traveled all over South America, the Caribbean. You know, so for me, I step off the plane in any country, I can see family. I don't care what you call yourself, I see family. I can look in my community and I can see, some people will see, oh, you see these, you see these. I just see one. Because that's the mentality. His mentality is, we're one. We deal with unity. And for me, it's a very practical, again, it's a very practical thing. Like, how do we actually treat each other based upon that? To know that we're actually family, and many of us, for real, because of the slave experience, many of us literally are family. So we really need to implement that. His ideology of, I don't care what label you put on yourself, we're all brothers and we're all sisters. And that is a most beautiful thing, I think, in his philosophy.
Yeah. Yes.
Very quickly, please. Timely, not quickly, timely answer,
Yeah,
please.
my joy about Garveyism really is the awakening that is brought to not just myself, but to the whole family. The inspiration that Marcus Garvey got from Booker T. Washington back when he was a boy, up from slavery, reading that book, right, has actually followed on from us reading Marcus Garvey book. And then Kwame Nkrumah, inspired by Marcus Garvey, has written many books on emancipating ourselves from mental slavery, yeah? Right, so the joy for me, right, is not to have to depend on those religious beliefs that my parents were brought up in, right? And that I can give my children, you know, my son is now in Africa, married to an African woman, right? And I'm proud of them. They're actually 2 teachers, and they're in Gambia now, heading to Senegal and then to Central Africa after that. So, you know, I can just remember the days when I used to go to church, right, and busting my brains thinking whether this thing is real or not. Now I know it's not real. And now I know a lot of things that would upset a lot of people if I tell them where the Jesus story come from, right? But this is not about Jesus, right? So I'm not going to go into that. But for me, I can say that I've emancipated myself to a great degree, right, from mental slavery, and I'm also trying to help others to emancipate themselves. I do write a lot and share. I'm a pain to a lot of people, right? But trust me, it's meant in good, you know, service, not to, you know, disrespect anyone. You know, it's meant from my art really to try and inspire everyone else to have their own mind and don't rely on any miracles to solve problems.
And last but definitely not least.
Last but not, is this the last question, by the way?
That is,
It is. Yeah.
for the panel, yes.
I just need to just clarify something. When I speak of education, I'm speaking of acculturation as well. You know, not just education for the sake of education. We need to redefine what education is, because at the moment it's dead education. We're dedicated to them and not to us.
Okay, so the question was, what's some of the joys and the perks of being a Garvey? Yeah, I know.
I just wanted to clarify that point.
Great, okay.
And to my sisters, to my beautiful young sisters, you know, it's to be LIB, living in black, is absolutely beautiful. And this is what Garvey represents for me. He gave a hell. Has anybody seen the Garvey documentary on YouTube with the African American women? There's one woman, and she came. That's the first time that woman has ever felt proud of being black. She says, when Garvey walked in, I felt 100 feet tall. That's what when we embrace ourselves and come to know the truths, it's just beautiful as far as I'm concerned. I love living in black. It's the only way to be. That's my take.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Thank you to all the panel members for your comprehensive answers. Yeah, for the thought that you've put into your answers as well. And I hope the audience found, the panelists engaging and all those things. Feels like a bit of a...
I feel like there's a bit of a whirlwind.
A bit of a whirlwind, like...
Can anybody else feel that?
Anybody else feel it?
There's a natural mystic blow
going... some kind of...
Something's going on.
I feel some kind of...
Something's happening.
The spirit and the energy
Can anybody feel that?
Marcus Messiah Garvey here.
Oh! Is that how you breathe?
Greetings, brothers and sisters. A revolution that we shall no longer be kicked about, as I witnessed in America. We are going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. Because while some can free our bodies, none can free our mind. The man who is not able to develop and use his mind is bound to be a slave to other man that can use his mind. Young man, you must never stop learning. The world's greatest people are the men and women who take the time to educate themselves, not just within the walls of the university, but also outside the walls with all the knowledge that these institutions give. You must read, become acquainted with biographies and autobiographies, find someone to inspire you, those who have achieved greatness in their field. You like music? You think you like music, so find someone to inspire you. Feast on all the great knowledge for inspiration that you see. Look for me in the whirlwind of a storm. Look for me all around you, for I live in the spiritual and in the physical.
This is the wonderful Remy, aspiring actor, and one of the feature actors in the upcoming Marcus play. I mean, hasn't he just represented Marcus ever so wonderfully? I mean, even the way you got your voice and everything, you know the way Marcus Garvey talks, right? Definitely got it. So this is just the level and the caliber of performance you can expect to see in the Marcus play. So do make sure you get your tickets, because you don't want to hear about it. You don't want to get upset when you have to hear about it. It's not my fault. I'm telling you from now, we're in August, and the play is in October. So you got 2 wages to get yourself together and to get your ticket. Okay? Yeah? Because that's how we plan things, innit?
Bro, what can I just say?
Yes, it's on.
Sure? Yes. Can I just say, he got it really
Listen.
I don't know if anybody's ever heard any of Marcus Garvey's speeches, right?
That's what I'm saying.
If you want to get motivated in the morning to do something, and you put a Marcus Garvey speech on, you're going to be running on that treadmill 45 minutes, just going, because he's relentless with his knowledge and his wisdom and his understanding. I think Brother Remy, we got to give him another round of applause.
Of course.
That was bang on.
You're louder than that, man. Louder than that. Come on, man. Come on. Thank you, Brother Remy, for that, and look forward to starring alongside you in the upcoming play. Yeah, all right, so now we're going to have some questions from the audience. Very timely questions from the audience. Relevant questions from the audience. Yeah? So, you're going to take someone? Okay. Let me take the light at my face so I can see. Okay, so your hand has been up since about 10 minutes in. So naturally, Brother Kessa here. No, next yeah. Right front tire, Audrey, right front tire.
Okay, greetings, panel, Yenge. Greetings in peace. I'd like your thoughts on one of Marcus's quotes, and it goes, "We are not engaged in domestic politics or in church building or in social uplift work. We are engaged in nation building." Do you think that some of our so-called leaders could perhaps have that tattooed on their arm or something?
I think that was an open question to the panel, was it not? Yeah, open to anyone close to the mic?
Yeah, I will answer it. Well, as you said, Marcus Garvey specifically tells us that what we are trying to do is build a nation. So when we say leaders and so forth, we've got to be very, very skeptical when we use the word leader, because if there was leader, then we would have those things to build a nation. And it takes a lot of things to build a nation, from the minutest things that need to happen in your society or in a nation. This all is going to have to be put together. So from a cleaner to a building to a school, so everybody's got to contribute to it. And it's going to take organization, and that is where the leadership comes in. So if there's no leaders there to organize us, then we're not going to have the guidance or the actual ability to build anything at all. So we won't be able to build anything, never mind a nation. But there has to be, the leadership is the key to any form of development in anybody's community. They have people who they look to, they have guidelines that they're following, they have blueprints that they're following. And it's about everybody sticking to those guidelines and rules, and having somebody in leadership who can obviously manage that development. So you're correct in what you're saying. We need to build nations, but we have to build the little things first, and before we can have a nation.
Anybody else want to respond to that question?
Yeah, I we know nationhood is very important. And I think it is important for us to have a vision of nationhood. I'm always reminded of the example of the North Korean children going to school every morning. And what the president did was that on their way to school, he put up speakers every so many feet. And the same message went out to the parents and the children as they walked to school. And the message was one of nation building. And it's just logic, really. Anybody who wants to be great, you have to be involved in nation building. But there's something else in that saying there that I think could be misconstrued. And I wouldn't want people to think that Garvey was saying you don't get involved in domestic politics. Yeah, because Garvey was very clear that you should know every politician, every mayor, know everybody who goes, everything that goes into making wherever you live, whoever runs it, know who they are, be friendly with them. So that could be, people could take that to say we shouldn't be involved in any of those things. But that's not what he was saying. He was just saying that you have a vision. All great purposes, all great dreams, missions start with a vision. And what is our vision for 2021, for the 21st century, the 22nd century, if we still want to be here? Papa Garvey said it has to be the vision of nation building. You get up every day with that. Just like Brother Cypher says, which I thought was beautiful. What Garvey gave back to us was the spirit of oneness. I thought that was beautifully said. The spirit of oneness. That oneness is what will fuels us as we go about our daily work of nation building. I hope that answers your question, Brother Kessa. Not quite. But what do you think it means? You tell us. Yeah, but you obviously have an idea.
I think that... Thank you. I think that some people in positions of authority or positions of power don't concentrate in the nation building part. They concentrate in building up the fabric of the country where they may live in, and forget about building up, Africa, basically.
Yeah, which is what Garvey's saying. Nation, have a vision of nation building. Have a vision for everybody who you're engaging with. Everyone you say that's supposed to be on your team, Team Africa, has to be engaged in nation building, however they choose to do that. Nation building, you know.
Well, let's see what some of the other panelists might get from the question.
I was going to say that, to me, nation building is lots of little things. Nation building is like, as a collective, a lot of people doing a lot of different things that, you know, creates. So somebody doing some mentoring with some young people, that's nation building. Somebody who's looking after our elderly, that's nation building. Somebody who's teaching our children is nation building. Somebody who's got his own business or her business is nation building. And all of these things together collectively form a critical mass, you know what I mean? And then you can actually create change. But it's not going to be, and this is one of the things when we talk about leadership, the responsibility of leadership is on all of us. I think sometimes we put the pressure on one person and we say, go and pick up those 500 kilograms and put it on your back, and you carry all the problems of the black nation on your back, and it's your responsibility, when it's our responsibility to make our communities safer, to speak to our young people, to look after our elderly. There's a lot of things that we need to do. There's a lot of problems in our community that we need to solve. So I don't like to be like, oh, see that man over there, it's his fault, because you don't know what weight that other person's carrying. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? And a lot of the time we lose our leaders or the people who stick their head up above the parapet, because it's kind of like they put their head up and then everybody dumps everything on them and then they wonder why they're crushed. So we as a community need to take collective ownership over the solutions and say, right, we're going to all, not to say every one of us is going to be at the head, but that's not the point. You know, if it's, say, for example, if there was an emergency in here, I know our community is full of NHS professionals. No disrespect, but the guy who's the technician who wires up the speakers, it's time for you to stand back and let the NHS people deal with the problem. But if there's a technical issue, then we need to call that person. If there's an aircraft pilot, we need that person. So the leader is could be a different person at a different particular time. But collectively as a people, we need to take responsibility and take ownership of our issues, and don't just say put it on that person and say you're not doing good enough. Do you get what I mean?
Was on.
Yes, I kind of pick up on that, you know, that's what you were asking. Not to disagree with the other panelists, their views on how to implement political organization, right? But at the time when Garvey was making those statements, right, we probably had Ethiopia and Liberia as free African nation, and Haiti as well, Haiti, yeah. Now, what he was saying is that we shouldn't focus, or the people of that day shouldn't focus their energy, or most of their energy, on domestic politics where they live in the colonized, enslaved society. What they should be looking at is to organize so that they could actually liberate the colonized, occupied states, right, in Africa, and even where they're living in the Americas or wherever African people reside. So that's what that statement was aimed at, inspiring revolution. So in a sense, we have not really reached where Garvey aimed for us. Because a lot of us think that the independence we have today is fulfillment of Garvey's intention, but it's not. Right? Because even if we look at what's happened in the last 2 years with COVID and all this kind of thing, right? Our people have been asking for reparation, right, for last how many hundreds of years, right? We haven't had that. We've had Windrush scandal and all kind of murder and thing going on, right? And on top of that, we have this lockdown and exploitation and injection of people, whether it's illegal to say that or not, I'm saying it. We are still sitting down, and a lot of us is still praying to the white man for our liberation. But what Garvey was saying there is that we should start rethinking and remodeling our idea of freedom, right? And I'm not sure how we're going to get that message through to a lot of people, because you have a lot of people today, right, would argue against what I'm saying, right, and argue against what you're saying, right, to say that we are extremists, right? And the thing is that you might find people who is on the continent of Africa, right, trying to get away from that to come to this kind of society, to deal with domestic politics here, and not training themselves and engaging themselves in the nation building that Marcus Garvey and Kwame Nkrumah and most of the original freedom fighters for liberation has fought for, yeah? But they want to become part of this one world order system, right? And that is really something that those of us who's got our minds open, ready to learn and develop and to train the youngsters who are coming up, better work hard and not just sit back and hope that it's going to happen by a miracle or by chance, because it's even more difficult, you know, in this time than it was 3 years ago.
Very true. Thank you very much, Brother Marcus.
I'm just having
Anybody else in the audience have a question? This brother right here.
time up. So you cut me off.
No, I didn't even know he was talking, but I just want to make sure that the audience gets to engage, because you guys have spoken a lot, have you not? Yes.
Yes, thank you to the panel. As a life coach, I've really enjoyed the transparency, talking about self-love and, you know, stuff like that. My question is, there is a rising generation of blackness feeling rejected and scorned by, in their own words, our own people. As a remedy, they divest, meaning dating outside your race, don't live in the black areas, don't party with the black people. What is the clear message for the black person feeling unwanted by the wider black community, and what is the incentive to be present?
Wow, that's a brilliant question, brother. Very brilliant question. And as for people feeling unwanted, certain people going outside of the race to assimilate with others, well, it might be excuses, but it is precisely what I'm saying. If we embrace, Kessa, going back to your last question, I'm sorry, it ties in with this one. When you mentioned about the leaders, should the leaders have it tattooed? It should be tattooed in their heart. Because what we need is pan-Africanists or people that are proud and love their race to lead us. We don't want no pretend white man, because that's what we have. You know, that's exactly what we have. And when we send our people to Oxford and Cambridge to be educated, what do you think we're getting back? We have to redefine it. And we need leaders like that who's going to redefine, leaders with the backbone of Garvey, willing to change things, because everything we imagine is not from our own originality. We must remember that. As Bob said, they said what we know is just what they teach us. We are so ignorant that every time they can reach us. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm fully in bed with that. And this is why I say separation is the only way. I'm sorry. I know it's not practical at this moment in time, but that's what we ought to be fighting for, so we can deal with our own people. Not everybody's going to agree with it. Carry on.
I want to respond to that, because it's something that I think about all the time as well. And I always think that you find your tribe in it. So you start your liberation movement via your interests. So maybe you're not the person to be out on the picket fence, or maybe you're not the person to be, you know, dousing yourself in red, black, and green. But what I've found, you know, when I've sometimes felt rejected from certain, you know, areas of the movement is you find other people that think like you. There's always somebody that that's going to be on a similar mindset of you, and then you kind of build your tribe from there within that movement, whether you call it Garveyism or whether you don't. You kind of find, you know what I mean, you find people that think like you know what I mean, because, you know, we're all supposed to look like each other, but you find people that look like you, and then you build there, and then you don't concentrate on numbers as well, because, you know, the amount of people in your tribe doesn't always, it doesn't show the productivity of whatever you're doing, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So I would say find your tribe and build from your area of interest, because sometimes the reason why people don't engage is because they're not interested in what you're advocating for at that particular time. And our life is so big and so versatile. There's so much elements and so much facets of our life that we can be working on. You know what I mean? That everybody doesn't have to be involved in every single element. You find that what you're interested in, and then you'll find that you'll be more passionate and convicted in that as well. So that's my response to that question. Anybody else on the panel?
I was just going to say quickly that what the brother said is a very, very valid point, and I think we're skirting around it. What you're saying is that within our own community, people feel ostracized, and that's a major issue. From my understanding, how we've got into this situation and why we're in this predicament is because of this idea of the best way to deal with these people is divide and conquer. So that's what they did. They divided and conquer. But what the gentleman is saying is that we are doing that within our own community, dividing ourselves based upon belief systems. I've heard different statements being made. But when we're talking about unity, I think we misunderstand unity. Unity does not mean that we all think the same way. No. Unity means that we have a wide range of different people, Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, whatever it is, capitalists, whatever it is. And we need to bring them together into one organization. That's unity. You cannot have trying to bring unity and then you're ostracizing people for whatever reason, whether they don't share your belief. Some people believe now that to be engaged within this particular struggle, they have to have a certain way of thinking. They have to believe a certain thing. And I think that's wrong. I think that everybody, and Garvey teaches this, as you've already mentioned, and Brother Cypher mentioned, there's people of all different persuasions in Marcus Garvey's movement, of all different persuasions. And I think that this is where we fail to understand what unity means. A lot of people talking about unity, they say we must unify under what they say on how they say we must think in order to have unity. Whereas I think that is what's causing a major problem in our community. We have, I am personally a Christian myself. I am a black African Christian. And we have a lot of Christians in our community. I mean, I've come up a different way because I've come up through Garveyism, so I'm a different kind of Christian. But I see that there are many Christians in our community who want to be involved and want to put their shoulder to the wheel and know that there's something wrong with the faith system that they've been given. And they're looking for answers. But we kind of ostracize them, so they think that they can't come into these kind of arenas, and we need them involved. There's Muslims out there, and sometimes we make statements that ostracize Muslims or any other belief that people may have. Now, when we're talking about bringing unity, this is the community that we can see. Can we not see that these people are Muslims, Christians, whatever they are? And we're supposed to be trying our utmost best to undo and to fight back the strategy that we know has put us into this predicament, which is divide and conquer. So our objective is supposed to be trying to bring these people together. So we're supposed to be looking for narratives to bring the Christian in, bring the Muslim in, bring the Pan-African in, bring the capitalist in, bring the conservative in. That's what unity is about. That is what we need to be doing, bringing about unity. So I 100% hear what the brother's saying, and I sense it myself. Because as I say, I'm a Christian. I just tell everybody I'm a Christian, you understand? And that's what I get that all the time. Every single way I go and I speak, I always hear these things. But Garvey's a Christian. Garvey is a devout Christian. That's how I become a Christian, because I follow certain things that he said. But I wouldn't usually even even challenge what the gentleman said. But it's just because what the brother said why I've raised this point, that this is the kind of things that ostracizes people who may think different from how some people may think. I think we all need to be involved in this struggle and contribute to the struggle. What drives us, whatever drives you, whatever it is that drives you, as long as it's driving you in the direction of race first, nation building, as Brother Kessa says, then that should be sufficient enough to become part of this unity that we're trying to establish. So from my perspective, that is one of the major issues that we've got.
Okay. Can I just say, give him a round of applause. I'm going to say, Imani for president of whatever movement of Ja people. That's the end of the story.
The passion cannot be undenied at all.
It just come out of me. So, and me bilingual now. So, and I wasn't even born in Jamaica, you get me? I'm from the black country. Anyway, so let me just explain something clearly. This divided situation, as soon as my spirit just lifted up, as soon as everything just pricked up, as soon as I felt ostracized within this conversation. You understand what I'm saying? And then the brother comes and drops a piece of knowledge to bring me back to the fold. Do you understand what I'm saying? I am saying something quite serious now, because right here, right now, in this space, you're going to have people who feel a certain way from what some people are saying. And then you'll have people who feel a certain way from what another one's saying. My main situation is that I just want to feel a part of my people, regardless of which way, back, way, front, way. Me no business. I don't have business. I need to feel a part of it. And as soon as, like the brother said, as soon as I feel like that just me coming, presenting as me, and I think I'm very beautiful, don't you think?
Of course. Gorgeous.
I say it now.
Gorgeous.
I'm only having a laugh. I'm having a laugh. But as soon as I come, and I'm saying that because I'm affirming things and it's important, but as soon as I want to just be part of something and I am then shunned because of whatever reason, within my own family, yeah, I have different people, different types of people in my family, and my pure principle is love. I come from a place of love. If I start saying, well, you is mixed, or you is this, or you, oh, are you having a laugh, mate? You're having an absolute laugh. I'm telling you now, if we are to unify, like you said, we have to come from a place of love to begin with, because we are broken. There's so many things that's going on within ourselves. We're broken. Obviously I can't speak as a Garveyite, but I feel so blessed to be here today, if I'm honest. For me, this is like church for me. I know you lot said don't bill it, but me just saying, when 2 or 3 is gathered, this is how I feel. Oh, Lord.
The spirit of Garvey is here. Yes, definitely.
But anyway, I'm just saying, I appreciate being amongst you great Garveyisms, and I appreciate the love, and I appreciate you bringing me in. I appreciate the fact that I, as a strong black woman, can direct a play about this great man. And I don't business, I feel proud, and I feel a part of it.
So you should.
I think what the brother said was very important, and he said that people ostracize in our own community. And if you really look at our community, it never used to be like that, and it's not our culture. Because I can honestly say that when I was growing up, basically anybody that was my mother's friend was an auntie. Anybody that was my father's friend was an uncle. I used to get fed in different houses all the time. So if we played football, and I go to my brethren's house or my friend's house, I'd say, are you hungry? No, I'm all right. I had breakfast this morning. Everybody's getting food, whether you ask for it or not. That's what it was. They were our babysitters. They were our carers. Do you know what I mean? The houses were big in terms of grandparents, uncles, cousins. I remember sometimes, we at one point, we lived in a 2-bedroom flat. And the amount of people sometimes that was living in that 2-bedroom flat in terms of a family, in terms of staying there when family come over, whatever, that's very, very basic, but it's very, very important. It's that thing of not letting one of us fall behind. It's that thing of trust. You know, the fact that we're lending money to each other so they could buy homes and houses and businesses and things like that. We can bring that back because that's our culture. That's the reality. That is our culture. And when I went to the Caribbean and when I go to Africa, I see that culture everywhere. You've got sugar, you've got wheat, you've got this, you've got that, and people live like that. That's how we live. And I'll be honest with you, in my own friendship group, that's how we live. You know, I know a person can call on me and I can call on that person because everybody's going to need help at some time. Everybody's going to go through challenges at some time. Like, bro, I'm in a situation right now, or sis, I'm in a situation right now. And I think we need to kind of stress the importance of those things, like the basics, like just being kind to each other, because the philosophy, the ideology, the politics, the mathematics and everything, that's absolutely fantastic and it's powerful and it's important. But if I can't see you and you can't feel that brotherly, sisterly energy, then do you understand? If we've got a community whereby, I'll be honest with you, you know, I lived in Newtown for a long time. Since we've been open, we've had people who are hungry in our community, hungry in terms of openly, families hungry. Now, let's just be honest. 25 years ago, 20 years ago, many of you are older than me, elders. Was that happening? Or was people bringing a rice to your house? Was people bringing meat to your house? Was you basically, you think about our elders, what jobs they were working and what money they actually did, and the fact that they were sending money back home, they were sending money to this person, we've got that thing around collective responsibility. It's not just for Kwanzaa. Do you understand?
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that.
That thing around collective responsibility, that thing around brotherhood and sisterhood, that thing around looking after each other to the best of our ability, it's not actually just something that you say, it's actually something that you actually practice. And I hope that we can turn it around so we don't have so many people feeling ostracized and alone in our own communities. Yeah?
Thank you for that.
Kush.
We have another question from the audience. Have you got a mic? Okay.
Yes, good evening, panel. Very inspirational talk, very upliftment, very uplifting. Give thanks for everybody to be here. Basically, what I'd like to address is basically the question on race, where Marcus emphasized on race. And he also talked about race in its entirety, because racism basically is white supremacy, because Marcus says race first. So he's appealing to us, you know, telling us that we have to look to each other so that we can defend each other and look after each other. Because a lot of people don't really understand the definition of race and racism. Racism was coined over probably about 200-300 years ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. And it was coined by the Caucasian, because Marcus says everybody is in the race for the wealth of Africa. Everybody's in the race. All the Europeans were in the race. Only the black people are not in the race for the wealth of Africa. Yeah? So my understanding of racism, it means to me that black people cannot be racist. No way, no how. Black people cannot be racist, because the only people that were in the race was the Europeans racing for the wealth of Africa, Akibaland, Mamaland, Kemet. Yeah, I don't know, you know. The other question that I would like to address, well, it's not a question, it's from my own heart, you know, is the reason why we as black people have been in this situation for so long. And it seems like it's going to be very hard to come out of it. No matter if we're Christians, no matter if we're Muslims, no matter if we're Rastas, no matter if we're Pan-Africanists, no matter who we are. Because what's been done to us over a 400 or 500 year period, and we all know what that is. Some of us should know what it is. Slave traumatic slave disorder. It resonates within our consciousness. It's within our DNA. This self-hatred of one another. And we're a people of love. We're people of the sun. And the only way that we're going to get out of this, my understanding of it, His Majesty says education. Marcus Garvey talks about education. He emphasizes a lot on education. Is that we need schools of learning. Schools to understand our own self, why we behave the way we do to one another. A lot of these things is stopping us from resonating and getting back on track, because all these things are within us, and we know it is, but it's just for us to resonate and start mobilizing and start doing what we're supposed to do. Give thanks.
Give thanks, my brother, for that contribution. Did we have another question from the audience? Yeah. Oh, Benjamin.
Hello. Thanks. Thank you. It's been very inspiring today, hearing everybody. Thank you, and taking your time to come here. My question is there something we can learn, being Garveyites, from, let's say, a society like China, and how they've, obviously, in the last, 100 years or whatever, built up their nation, got self-pride, to be nearly like the forerunners of today's world? Is there something that we can learn from there, which we can take back into, maybe not into nation building, but into our own families, and hopefully that can help break the illusion of inclusion, that type of bubble. Because if you don't rely on yourself, then boy, I think we're done, So is there something that we can see from China and say, okay, I see how these men basically brought up themselves in the last, let's say, 100 years, which we can incorporate in our family structure, our economic structure. Obviously, there's Black Pound, but even further than that, maybe going back home, buying land or whatever, something like that. That's my question. Thank you.
That's a good question. Can I? Yeah. Since you mentioned China, actually, and that's the Chinese has really come up, haven't they? Interesting to note, I don't know, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but J.O. Rogers documented in his little pamphlet book that it was a Jamaican, forgot his name now, that actually wrote a constitution for Chairman Mao. I'm not sure how true that is, but Rogers actually put it in there. And as you mentioned, the Chinese people, what did they do? They went into a period, a cultural revolution, where they literally locked themselves off from the world and say, we are going to have a Chinese-centric education system, society, and that's what they done. And for us, that is the only way we're going to get out of this, I think. And another brother mentioned education, that Marcus, education is the key, but not the education that we're receiving now. Because our education must take into account a full spectrum. It must take astrology, everything into account, as above, so below. The education that we used to have, yeah? Okay. Who else wants it?
Okay. Just to touch on that point of education, I think we need both systems of education. Yeah, if you want to train to be a doctor or a chemist or a physicist, you got to go to university. Yeah, or if you want to be a solicitor, you got to go to university. We're not at this stage yet where we can, create those universities for ourselves. We can work with what we have, and we can also create our own as well. The two can run side by side. For now, that is the way it is. China. The brother, one of the brothers touched on, I think this young brother was talking about some people feeling ostracized and running over to the other side. Not that I've ever known black men to need an excuse to go over to the other side, but there you go. I said
That was below the belt for some of them, I think.
No, it is what it
Some of
is.
them are their belly.
I come from Wales. They don't need excuses, believe you me. They're running. So, yes, we want love amongst our people, and we don't want judgment. We want everybody to feel inclusive. However, there has to be standards. This is why the Chinese Revolution was very successful. The Cultural Revolution in China was no joke. It was bloody. It wasn't all this, everybody come, we're all family. It was like, no, you lot, stand over there, brap. You lot, over there. And this is how they went through China, destroying some of their traditional religions. A lot of things got taken down in China. They didn't joke under Chairman Mao, communism. They rode through and they changed a lot. Remember, the Chinese used to be called the niggers of Asia. Japanese used to hang them up and kill them and do all kinds of things to them. The British had them on opium for over 100 years, strung out like crackheads in Harlem. Somebody came up with a unifying philosophy, but that unifying philosophy meant some of the people had to pay the price. I say this because as much as we say we want to include everybody and we mustn't judge our people and everybody come in, we just saw one of the biggest movements for a long while, the Black Lives Matter. But the Black Lives Matter is not a movement for the black family. For those of you who don't know, if you go and read their website, they're very clear about who they're for, what they represent, and they're not for the black family. I don't have a problem with that because that's what they want to create and they got their own contribution they want to do towards our liberation. But I do have a problem when that agenda now becomes what the driving force for the rest of us, that tells the rest of us how to behave and how to act. So whilst we don't want to be judging people, and whilst we want to be inclusive and incorporate people in, we have to have standards. Yeah, it's as simple as that. It's not everything goes. That is not culture. And it wasn't that way in Africa either. It was never that way. There has to be standards. There has to be a cutoff point. At some point, you've got to close the door and you can't come through. Yeah, because you're going on with certain things that's not dealing to the benefit of the overall culture. And that's how it works. Doesn't mean we've got to judge you. Doesn't mean we've got to condemn you, which is what I think the brother was saying some of the people are hearing. Sometimes when you can't work with a group of people, I've experienced it, you just got to say, sure, they ain't better than me. They don't know more than me. Let me go and do what I got to do and contribute to my people and how I see fit. And I may not agree with them, but trust me, if somebody troubles them out the road and I'm around, and that person doesn't look like them, I'm on their side. You see? So I just think we just have to be clear that we don't get wishy-washy, this kumbaya kind of mentality, and get real, because somebody's driving our agenda. There's a reason why some George Soros put $35 million into the Black Lives Matter movement. No black movement ever's got that amount of money. If Garvey got that amount of money, you could imagine how many ships and businesses would have been created, right? So we have to ask ourselves, what is the agenda that other people have for us? I just did 2 interviews last week. And one was in New York, one was in Haiti. And it turned out the brother who was interviewing me was a bishop. He called himself a radical gay bishop. And he wanted to know about Garveyism and our Garveyist homophobics. Do they hate the LGBT people and all that kind of stuff? And that, it's the LGBTQT, MNOA. But it's that movement, he was saying, that has done the biggest work in Africa. Now, if I didn't know my history and culture, I couldn't correct him. So what's the agenda there? Who's pushing that agenda? I'm not judging nobody. I'm just saying, what is the agenda? And these are the critical things we have to ask. Your son comes in with a crack pipe. You love him. and you don't want to judge him, but he can't smoke crack in your house. And I just think we just have to have some of that. No, but in how it's been applied to us as black people, it's very wishy-washy. Exactly. When black people jump up, sis. Okay, I agree. Because when we jump up, we had a wonderful Rastafarian movement, Nyabingi, powerful movement. Next minute is one love. And what is love if it's not reciprocated? What good is it if you're giving all of your resources to one person, all your love and energy to uplift one person, which is what we've done since we've come out of slavery. We've uplifted them. We've loved them more than they love themselves. We've gone to fight in their wars when people come to pick on them, and we'll do it again too in the next World War with China and America. So we love everybody, and we love and we love and we love them and love them and love them to our own detriment. And we're dealing with our one love stuff. No. Aikwe Ma told us love must be reciprocated. So if you're dealing with one love, you've got to reciprocate. And to the brother who was talking about racism, I agree with you. Racism is about power. It's about the power that a people have to make another people act in a certain way.
Thank you very much, Sister Ann Colby, for that response. So I'm going to take my final 2 questions from the audience
Sis,
now.
can I have a shot at that one? Because
a very quick shot. We have to make sure that everybody in the audience
quickly, yeah?
gets the time.
I think the brother made a very, very good point, right? China has gone from, in the 1980s, from a third world country to becoming like Jamaica is at least, right? Almost the first world, right? The #1 in the world. Now we can learn from that. What we need to learn is to get away from this idealist belief systems that has not taken us much from slavery days till now, right? If China can change since 1980 till now, we can. And we need to study that, right? And then see how we can do that.
Yeah, greetings to every man, woman, and child in here today. This was a ticket event, and when you go on the website, it says sold out, and you have a whole heap of empty seat. It's just an observation for me. So it says sold out. That means I expect more man, woman, and child in here. That's an observation. And the next thing again, big up yourself, man, and big up yourself, Cypher, for inspire the youths them and get the youth them in the community, to strive to own something. You know what I mean? Because we can't look out at ourselves all the time, attack and criticize. We have to step up, both man, woman, and child. Yeah? We have to step up and represent. You know what I mean? We have to create and step forward. Too much talking in the community more time. You know, a lot of talking and less action. And that's one of the problems. And the point on Christianity. Christian mean to be born again. That's what Christian mean. It's not to serve Jesus Christ, really. So get that right. Christian mean to be born again. That's what it really mean. Yeah? It's not about serving Jesus Christ or serving the white God or them thing there. It means to be born again. On the point there. Yeah, just a little clarity upon that. So, I can be born again because well, people think so just through serving Jesus Christ that them are the true Christian or them are Christian only. No, Christian means to be born again. Come to a conscious levels in your mindset. Yeah? That's one little point. I don't really have a question, but from the point of Garveyism, where I and I as black people, you know the leader them always get shot down because we're security weak. Meaning that when we go out there and say community as a leader, doing this, go up on the battlefront, and because I find I security weak, we always like what Kwame Nkrumah, they imprison him, and then you know what happened to him. We see what happened to the lead president of Tanzania. All of these great leaders were a stand up for the race, them get cut down because of security. We need to tighten with collective security where leaders is concerned. We not protect our leaders, we not protect our elder, we not protect our child them. You know, we not protect the woman them. The security weak in the community. You know what I mean? When the leader them step up, they need to be secured. You know what I mean? We need to secure them. You know what I mean? Lack of security, not for the leaders them get cut down, and we see these things that happen. It's just an overseertion to all of the topic when I listen forward for once to bear in mind. Because the mindset going forward, if we don't have a mindset going forward, we'll fall back into the same trap. See? Love.
Give thanks for that contribution. Thank you. We had another question back there, yeah?
All right. I want to big you all up on the stage. Like, trust me, some of you that know me know I don't mix my words, that know me personally on the stage. So I'm just going to say it like this. We've had at least, let's just look at it for the last 100 years, we've had a man named Marcus Garvey that came from an island called Jamaica and went to America. And he was so promising to American people as well as the Caribbean people and British people that he laid a foundation down that shook up a 19-year-old, for example, named GJIGGY Hoover, that literally said that we can't have none of this. We can't have a rise of a black messiah. Now, if you kind of go forward based on what Marcus Garvey was trying to say, yes, we do have Nation of Islam, and we do have Malcolm X, and we do have the Black Panthers, even right down into the rise of hip-hop culture that I've been following for many years, and I know Cypher's been following for many years and so forth, because he's one of the leaders that I looked up to in this city, that without him, I probably wouldn't even be writing certain things, I wouldn't be performing certain things. So that's just something that I take value in as seeing one of the leaders and then Cobia on the stage. So when we look at the rise of a black messiah, and we've had a 19-year-old guy named GJIGGY Hoover that way before the FBI was even created, that was his mission, to take down a black messiah. And we've had nothing but black leaders coming up, and then we have the COINTELPRO. My question is, what has really changed, or what is it that we need to do? Because I see more political prisoners being locked up based on the same things that you're saying, and without unity and without strength, I'm going to see more leaders go down the same route if we don't do nothing about it, if we don't do something about it, because it's important. I've seen leaders, as famous as they are, get assassinated, but there's a hell of a lot of leaders locked up right now that no one ain't really talking about. Yeah? So I think it's important that our Garveyites right now, that has looked up to people like Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X and other leaders. So it's more of a statement. I just think that we need to be careful, because we have got the COINTELPRO out there. It's still existent now. And if people want to still think here that it started from the 50s, it started from Marcus Garvey even further back. And then when you go into eugenics and Margaret Sanger and all the people that was creating these people to exterminate black people, we've got to be real with ourselves to understand that there's more than just talking. There's action. And we've got to take that forward in knowing and looking at our young people today, to let them learn, to make them study law, make them know about the political prisoners that is locked down right now, that we can fight to kind of give them a voice. That's what I need to say.
Give thanks for that contribution. And that was supposed to be the last one, but I'm going to break the rules and let my sister in right here talk, right here at the front, please. RJ, please.
Yeah, man, to the panel, respect couldn't put it on, for real. In terms of, with Ross, I say, and Cobia give thanks, a little student from way back. The WhatsApp made me come here, so, because I did go online, and it was hard to try and trace the things today for the events. But as history made me know, says Birmingham. I'm quite computer literate, but there was a bit of a difficulty literally getting to the site to get the free ticket. All right, all I go and say to the item, straight up, for real. Whether it's Message to the Black Man or whether it's Amy Jacob's book, The Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey 1 and 2 is very simple and easy to read. I mean, I tell you them, Straight. That is the book you need to read. When I go to Ghana in 1982, I go in a state house and I watch soldiers doing taekwondo. And when them sit down and rest, right beside them was the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey. Uncle Ben, I tell them story a long time. To me, that's where we need to go back to. We just need to keep reprinting the book and pushing it out there. Anybody who have literate sense and common sense can read that and empower themselves. Because I read that when I just left school. We buy that at Beanie 104 in 1976. Me buy the book. Before me turn Rasta, I read the book. And that make me Rasta who I am today, and I can't change. That philosophy is still on my head top. So it go. Simple as that. Rastafari.
Give thanks, Rashid. All right, this is definitely the last question now from the audience.
Yeah, thanks, Sister Tamar. Greetings, everyone. Just a quick question, really, but also answer. Marcus Garvey says, Africa for the Africans, Asia for the Asians, and Europe for the Europeans. Is it so, or is there a message in the message? Can the panel just quickly kind of give me a feedback on that, please?
I can try and answer that and try and tie up.
Sure, I think it's open to the whole panel, yeah.
Okay, then, for me personally, I just want to make a few points. One central thing for me, I think that we spend a lot of time, too much time, talking about what other people are doing and how other people are doing things. That's central for me. One thing that I look at is this. Even though, Marcus Garvey says, don't make or call anybody superior above you. There is one superior above you, which is the supreme. So even we utter the words, I don't like to say it, but somebody having supremacy over us, I don't like to say it. What is actually happening is people are actually challenging your sovereignty. That's what's happening. They may be racist, they may be discriminative or whatever. They know that you're a sovereign. So what they're actually doing is challenging your sovereignty. So when you know you're a sovereign, and when you understand that you're a sovereign, it is something that you are willing to die for. And that's just normal. If you're a sovereign and somebody's trying to take away your sovereignty, and somebody's trying to challenge your sovereignty, and you know you're a sovereign, you will die for it. If you see, so for me personally, I think a lot of our rhetoric is external. And I don't know what we're fighting for. We're dying anyway. We're dying anyway, and we're dying for nothing. So for me personally, keep on looking at what people are doing and what people are doing and what people are doing and giving them this high accolade. I think it deflates a lot of people. It deflates a lot of people. I never use, anybody who's heard me teach, they never hear me. I don't really talk about other people. I don't really heighten other people either. I believe personally that we ourselves, who are sovereigns, need to stand up for our rights, stand up for who we are, and the likelihood based upon the brother just said, we may have to give our lives for that. That is what sovereignty is. Rather than keep on complaining about what other people are doing. And also, as a sovereign, we must understand how the Chinese do it, or how the Asians do it, or how the Europeans do it. That is not the way how we would do it. We are Africans. We have a different way to do it. And because we keep on looking externally, we're not looking within ourselves to find out what is the African way, what is the African mindset. Regardless of what we believe, what is our view? How do we perceive it? How do we go about it? And that's what is important to me. Stop talking about other people, how they do their things, what's good for them. Yes, we can look at them as examples, but there's nothing that anybody else does that we can just wholesale incorporate into our culture. We are African people. African people go about things in different way. And central to African culture is love. Love is central. That's why our communities were so strong. So we may have to approach things differently from how the Chinese approached it, or differently from how Japanese approached it, or differently from how any other developing culture has done it. But our problem is that we're not looking at what we as Africans are supposed to be doing, how we as Africans are supposed to be doing, and we're spending too much time looking at what other people are doing and what we are not doing that they're doing and so forth. And I think it deflates us. And I think it deflates us, keep on talking about how superior other people are. I think it deflates us, it deflates our young people. And Garvey never taught that at all. He told us, do not call or do not make anybody supreme above you. Simple. So what if they want to say that if they want to think they're white supreme or whatever supremacy, if they want to think that, that's fine. Why have we got a problem? We should know you're not supreme over us. You're challenging our supremacy, and we're going to stand up for that.
Thank you very much. What I'm going to say now, you know, we got a saying that says stick up in. So we're going to have to stick up in right there. I know we could be here reasoning all night. We've got so much to talk about, so much opinions, so much ideologies. But for those of you that feel like you still got something to say, you can stick up in, like I said, and you can wait until Saturday, because there's another Garvey event happening on Saturday, this Saturday the 21st at 104. We all know where 104 Heathrow Road is. And there's actually going to be a space reserved for creative expression and thought. So for all the creatives and for all the people that have so much more they want to say, or that has been inspired to, that has, you know, had their thoughts inspired by being here, you can definitely express that over at 104 on Saturday between the hours of 4 and 8 p.m. So please make sure you do turn up there. I want to thank everybody for being so attentive and so disciplined this evening. I'd like to give particular thanks to the panel members, all of you. You're all individual rights. Obviously, we've got to big up Blackstory Partnership and the wonderful Audrey. Big up yourselves for being here, for being interested, for being engaged, and for being concerned about the plight of your people. I hope you had a wonderful event. Hope you felt engaged, and definitely look out for future events to come. I've been your host, Kush Data. Don't forget to get your tickets for the wonderful play so you can see actor Remy, you know, just bring the spirit of Garvey to the people then. So make sure you get your tickets. Thank you for coming. Have a wonderful, safe journey home.